Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us again.
My pleasure, Kevin. You had some of the best questions the last we spoke, so I'm thrilled to be back in your company.
No pressure, to start, so much of Tuff's journey in season one is about the responsibility that he feels to hold everything together. And you brought so much nuance to that journey. As an actor, how did you create the space for yourself to dive into that arc? And did you channel any of your own personal experiences when building this character?
Yeah, wonderful question. I agree that Tough is at the center of a lot in our story. Valeria and Tough actually have, sort of opposing perspectives on the same anchoring point. So Sarah and I bond over that quite frequently. And by proxy, we talk too about how our real life experiences. And for me, I think, I don't want to take away from crediting myself for the acting choices, but being a person with family values myself and for whom family is a priority, I do try and keep the love together for the people in my life, try and stay connected, remind people how valued they are and how lucky I am to be doing what I love to do and taking up the space that I get to take up. And it's not, I'll admit, it's not that big a jump to imagine wanting to be that way for the McMurrays as well. As Jake, I root for Cash's bull riding. I root for Mom's wrestling with it. I want Missy to find love. I want Gus to have good intentions. I'm really team Tough, even though I'm lucky enough to bring him to life. So it's not as difficult a work as I would like to claim that it is.
Music is one of the ways in which Tough is able to express himself and everything that he's got bottled up inside, which is close to home for you. How much does music play a role in your preparation for a character and a scene before and after?
Yeah. I use this soundbite when I pitch my own work in the musical space, but we are the only species capable of perceiving rhythm and pitch at the same time. There's some birds that can feel out rhythm and other animals that can kind of sense those highs and lows like dolphins and whales, but we're really the only species that can perceive music. And I think that when we talk about storytelling, whether it's theater, film, or television, we're talking about our shared humanity. And I think having a musical component to the story is just impossibly lucky for someone who cares about that. And I think also a catalyst for Tough's self-discovery in the matrix of supporting everyone around him, like you talk about. He's got so much energy to help lift others up, and the space that he's carved out for expression through music is one that I think we will really enjoy getting to follow over the course of hopefully a few more seasons. Yeah. For Tough finding his voice and what it means to step into his own hero's journey.
Yeah, and that sense of responsibility also starts to affect his relationship with Julian. What has it been like getting to collaborate with Vasilios as you brought that dynamic and all that ups and downs of that relationship to life?
Yeah, similar to Tough and Julian, Vasilios and I come to our work from really, really different perspectives and priorities. And Vasilios calls LA home. I'm in Vancouver. We don't have a lot of working days together when we shoot either. And because of the nature of us being in Calgary, and he's in and out of town as well. So what's really interesting is there's a bit of art imitating life there in our finding common ground between our difference of perspectives and being in the tornado of shooting ride and coming and going from that space. So I think what's great about that is like variety is the spice. What is it? Variety is the spice of life. What am I?
Life, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, yeah. So it's the ensemble is just that, a lot of different perspectives that get to create the world of Canyon, Colorado, one at a time. So our dynamic is no different. And I'm really excited for audiences who have been shipping the relationship or not sure how they feel about it to get a little more of an answer out of episode 10 as we come towards the finale.
Yeah, and in addition to the incredible work that you've done on the screen and stage, you've also written, produced, and directed. How have your experiences behind the camera impacted the way that you approach your work as an actor and vice versa, especially with a character like Tough?
Thank you for the question. Well, overall, I think that everyone in our business should take some time to, put the shoe on the other foot as far as the relationship between in front of and behind the camera. I'm lucky enough to have some people who believe in my vision for musical storytelling, so I have a little more practice than others. But what it really results in is an enormous reverence for the creative team, the network, all of the people in our crew that come together to tell this story so vividly. It is an epic tale of family, love, loss, grief, and risk. And it's not easy to do that at this scale. And I think the long and short answer is I have such a respect for everyone that comes to work on our show, because they seem to arrive there only by caring deeply about representing the kind of people that really do live in this world off screen, and that's funny because they're not necessarily behind the camera, they're behind the TV, I guess, when they get to watch, but they're who are most important to all of us, that people who really live a ranching and rodeo life, of which there are many, feel respected when they wrap up an episode, like feel like they've been honored a little bit, and that's what really counts.
Yeah, perfect segue to the next question. But there's so much authenticity that comes off the screen with this project. And outside of the guitar and bullfighting training that you had to do, you all filmed on location with actual rodeo performers and riders. How did those conversations and that collaboration help you immerse yourself into this world?
Well, one of the biggest parts about it, and the first thing that comes to mind, is that it's not a space for ego. There's a lot of bravado in the world of rodeo and ranching, and yet a humility. So we are very fortunate as a cast to be observing that dignity all the time. And what's really cool that we don't talk about very often is many of these people who are, small time rodeo queens or on their way to rising or legacy trick riders that are from Alberta, Canada, also make cameos in the show because they're around us all the time. And to speak to that authenticity, it's also just too lucky that we have people of that level of skill around all the time as a resource. So, we'd love to take full credit for the amount of research and preparation that we could bring to a show like this, but a television shooting schedule is one of the most rigorous that there is. So having people around that are willing to check their egos at the door, they're not mad that they're not the ones on screen taking the credit. They want to lift us up and have the story be as real and gritty as possible. So thank you to everyone who might be watching that worked on our show, and to everyone that is able to immerse themselves in the world because of their hard work. Just tip your hat to them next time you got your cowboy hat on.
Yeah. And this is also the longest that you've lived with a character on screen. Has anything surprised you about this overall experience? What's been the biggest takeaway thus far?
Wonderful question. Always, Kevin. It's so great. A whole season with the character is the most that I have spent personally. And I think what's been most enriching about it is the freedom that someone that's as much of a perfectionist as I am gets to have in saying, we don't necessarily start shooting knowing the full map of what a season will be, knowing where we're headed. So it's exercising a new skill set from the tool belt that I have to throw caution to the wind a little bit and just allow the moment to be authentic for what Tough might be feeling at any given time, and allow that to be flexible in the same way that we let ourselves have a bit of a change of opinion in our real lives. So fully fleshing out that world of opinions that is ever evolving is great. It feels good. It's nice. It feels like getting a good workout in, if that makes sense.
Art imitating life. And another perfect segue, but one of the benefits of television as a medium is the opportunity to grow with a character, and you're learning more and more about them as the series goes on. What's been the most surprising part of Tough's development in season 1?
The responsibility to others is something noble that Tough begins the season with as his first and foremost priority. And I hope that audiences are able to relate to feeling of knowing that responsibility to others is, of course, an important part of a full life, but that we can only really be our best for those around us when we step into the light of our own calling. And I think that may not be a perfectly buttoned journey in season one, but I think Tough is certainly on that trajectory to the discovery that being his best self will in turn lift up the McMurray family even more than he's already been able to. And I think that's a lesson we all stand to benefit from, you know, that when we let ourselves indulge in what brings us the most joy, we're able to share more of that joy because we have it to spare. So I'm hopeful that he continues on that path, and there will be highs and lows as there are in television, but that's my hope.
Yeah, beautifully said. You know, another benefit is that as the creators get to know each of the actors, they're able to incorporate elements of them into their respective characters. How's that collaboration grown throughout this season and allowed you to take agency over Tough's journey?
Yeah, our creators, Rebecca and Chris, are like family at this point. That's just the fact of the matter. And they've been so curious actually about our unique perspectives on these characters as individual actors, and then of course as our directors come and go from blocks on the season. So that's an inspiration as well for me. And to speak to your earlier question, I think if you come to set with rigid decisions about what this character is or can and cannot be, there's a place for that, and there's a place for creative guardrails. But I think what's been great about the process is that everyone is bringing a curiosity to the table. There's not just Valeria's mystery, but there's also the many mysteries of what the McMurrays have been, are, and can be. And hopefully we've been able to explore a great deal of that in season one, and then we'll continue to in the future.
Yeah, and there's so many directions where Tough's storyline could head in season two. If we're lucky enough to get a second season, what else would you like to explore and dive deeper into with this character? And is there another relationship that you would love to explore furthermore?
Well, I am not shy about saying I would love to explore Tough's passion for music and finding his voice, but as a reflection of what my journey has been, it's really fun to be 7 years Tough's senior in real life, both flattering to play a little younger than myself, and because it's therapeutic to explore what it was to be 25 and 26 and on the cusp of that maturity and adulthood. And I think as Tough finds his voice in music, he'll also find new challenge in balancing a love for his art and finding a love that can both rival and complement that. And it's no secret that I feel like I found that in my life, and it took a number of years to make space for both things. So I'd love to explore that, because I think beyond what we've already talked about in Tough's story not being written from trauma or suffering, I think one of the greatest joys I've experienced is balancing love for my career and my calling in the world with love for another person. And I think if we're able to watch Tough wrestle with that, it would set a lovely precedent for a lot of young people, gay or not. And that would mean a lot to me over the next few seasons, we'll say.
Yeah, and you've definitely done that. I've got one final question for you. Outside of Ride, you've got tons of other projects that are in progress. Are there any that you can chat about at this time?
Yes, there's one that I can talk about. There's a 38-minute musical short film that I wrote the original screenplay for with Drew Gasparini, who has done the pre-Broadway debut of the Karate Kid musical, and they're shopping around for space for that. So fingers crossed for him. But it's a really special story about two young teenagers in love that I adapted from material that's been around for quite some time. And it's great to also make a bit of a statement of empowerment and choice for young women through that story. And we're really excited to see where it's received at festivals as our producing team continues to submit it.